Hey, Matt Goldberg here from Surplus Trader Secrets, and today I'm going to show you how to flip excess inventory without any buyer contacts whatsoever. So, when I'm done showing you this, if this resonates with you and you'd like help implementing this yourself into your business or start a business like this, then you have a chance to book a call with me and speak to me, see if I can help. So let's dive in. So a lot of people think that you can't flip excess inventory if you have no buyer contacts. That is actually a misconception, because there are actually ways of flipping excess inventory even if you don't have buyer contacts for that inventory, okay? And the way that we do that is by getting connected with people who are well connected in specific industries, okay? So the first thing that we need to look at is what type of excess inventory you have that you need a buyer for, okay? So let's just start by, this is your excess, okay? That's the excess stock that you found. And first thing we need to do is specifically look at what product category does that excess inventory fall into. So, what product category? Okay. Once you know what type of product category that excess inventory falls into, then you can become a lot more clearer on what you want to be doing with that inventory and how you are going to move down that road towards finding a buyer, even if you don't have a buyer connection yourself. So there are several methods that I use myself when I am offered some excess inventory and I don't have any buyers for that excess inventory. I don't have buyer contacts. Now listen, we all have various contacts, but you just might not have someone who would be interested in buying that excess inventory. And a lot of people will sometimes just say, no, I can't do anything with it, and, you know, move on. But there's no harm in actually trying to do something with some excess inventory that you don't have any buyers for, and try and turn that into an actual deal and get some profit in the bank. So the first method I'm going to show you is a LinkedIn method, and this is one of a few methods on LinkedIn that you can actually use to try and find a connection on LinkedIn who can help do something with that excess inventory. Okay, so first let's make it clear, you're not going to flip any excess inventory without finding someone who can find a buyer for you. You might not be able to find a buyer yourself, a direct buyer, but you might be able to get connected with people who can find a buyer for that excess inventory. Does that make sense? So the first method is what I call LinkedIn search. LinkedIn search. And this is just a basic search of LinkedIn using the search box at the top of the LinkedIn page to basically find connections who are related to that excess inventory that you've actually been offered. Okay, so let's take an example. Very broad product category, clothing. So if you were offered some excess inventory of some clothing stock, okay, it could be men's, ladies, children's, whatever, you can do a search on LinkedIn of people who are in the clothing industry. You would be using keywords like clothing wholesalers, maybe clothing agents, maybe clothing brokers, those types of keywords, and then click search, and then filter the search results to people, and then you can then filter again to your own country, or whatever country that excess inventory is actually in. If it's in a specific country, you can filter your search results to people within that specific country. It's quite useful if you can find connections who are in the same country as where the excess inventory is located. Okay, just makes things a little bit easier anyway. So for example, if I was offered some excess inventory of clothing in the UK, I could do a search on LinkedIn of clothing wholesalers, or clothing agents, clothing brokers, clothing distributors maybe, and filter the results to people, and then filter the result again to the United Kingdom. And then it's going to bring up some search results of actual people who are in the clothing industry. Now, this is the first step of moving this excess inventory. The first step is getting connected with people who are in that industry. And the reason you want to be doing that is because they are in that industry and they've got their own buyer connections. Okay? So what you are in effect doing is you are finding connections who know potential buyers for that excess inventory. You are finding people who are in that industry. They are, they specialize in that product category. They are, they're probably experts within that industry if that's what they do. If they are in that, as an example, clothing industry, if they are in the clothing industry, what they've got that you don't have is their own network of connections who could be very interested in that excess inventory. Okay, they could be very interested indeed. And what you want to be doing is you want to be connecting with these people. Search through your results and connect with them. You can even, when you click connect, you get an option of adding a note to, you can actually add a note. So you could put, hi, I'm not in your industry, but I have access to some excess inventory of some whatever product it is. I see you are in that industry. You probably have some buyer connections that would be interested in this excess inventory. Please contact me, and I'll give you more details. Okay, so what you are doing is you are pretty much laser targeting some connections who are specific to the product category that this excess inventory falls into. Okay, so that's the first method. The second method is LinkedIn groups. Okay, LinkedIn groups. Now, LinkedIn groups, it's very underrated. A lot of people join groups, but they don't really get involved. They don't really make any posts. They don't really look at what's going on in these groups on a regular basis. So again, using that example of clothing product category, very broad product category, but you can do a search again in the LinkedIn search box at the top. Clothing, maybe clothing UK, or clothing wholesalers, clothing distributors. Just use that word clothing. Okay, click search, and then filter the results to groups this time, not people, groups. What you're going to get is you're going to get some search results of groups that have that keyword in that you've used. So it's going to be groups with the keyword clothing in them. So you're going to look through at these groups and you're going to see, you know, what type of groups they are. There might be clothing manufacturers, there might be clothing agents, there might be just people who have joined groups that are related to clothing. You want to join a few of these groups, okay? You want to join them, wait till you're accepted into this group, and then you make a post and you can explain that, you know, you are in the excess inventory business and you have access to a stock of some clothing that you are looking for a buyer, and does anyone have any buyer connections that might be interested in this type of excess inventory, and wait for a response. Now you can also, in LinkedIn groups, you can actually bring up, if you look on to the right, you can actually look at all the members who are in that specific group. Does that make sense? So you can go through all the members in that clothing group, and you just might see specific people who, you know, fit into that, fit into that connection that you are looking for, that might be able to find a buyer for that inventory. What I'm trying to explain here, guys, is I'm not saying that just because you don't have a buyer that you can't find a buyer for that excess inventory. What I'm showing you is how to find people who have their own network of buyer connections that they can offer that stock to. Okay, they're not your buyer connections, they're your contacts' buyer connections. And this is what we do a lot in our business, is we might not be able to find buyers, direct buyers, end buyers for our excess inventory, but we can find people who are in that line of business, who have the connections, who have the buyers that would be interested in that type of excess inventory. So basically what you're doing is you are using that connection to access a buyer. You are using people who are well connected within their industry. It's just a shortcut. It's an easier and faster method of finding buyers, getting connected with people who are within that industry. They are specific to that industry, and you know, they know that industry very well. They know the type of buyers that could be interested in that type of stock. So another method, guys, is brokers. Now, brokers, a lot of people are a little bit sometimes wary of brokers because they are normally in a chain within that deal, okay? They're normally in a chain within that deal. They don't own the stock. They are just purely in the middle. However, what a lot of people need to realise with brokers, or, you know, middlemen, or bridgemen that I like to call them, you know, people in the middle, they are the guys who work hard to get deals done. A lot of deals are done on the back of brokers and middlemen. Without brokers and middlemen, a lot of deals would never be done. That is a fact. Now, brokers are very, very handy contacts to have, indeed, because brokers are very, very well connected. Brokers know a lot of people, especially obviously if it's brokers who have been around for a long time. I'm a broker, you know, I know a lot of people. I'm very, very well connected. So another example of this method here, you know, how to flip excess inventory without any buyers, you could actually bring that offer to me that you've got, then I can put that out to my network of buyer connections. Now, what you got to remember with brokers are that a lot of their connections might not be end buyers. A lot of their connections might be people within that specific industry, but they're not the end buyer. It might be someone, it might even be another broker, but in that specific industry. So as an example here, you bring that deal to me, I might show that to a broker who is in the clothing industry. Does that make sense? So I'm going to use that broker for his connections. Although there might be a few people in the chain, to get that deal over the line, this is a method that, you know, works and worked very, very well by using brokers who are specific to an industry. They've got connections in that industry. They might not have the end buyer as a connection, but they know people who do have buyers. And that is better than a deal not happening. At the end of the day, a profit is a profit. That is always going to be better than not doing that deal at all. Okay, because you haven't got any buyer connections. So there's nothing better than, you know, using other people to find buyers. Even if there's other people that want to try and make some money out of it as well. It's always better to go down that road rather than just walking away from that deal because you can't find any buyers. There are a lot of other methods to find buyers, which I go into a lot more detail in inside my Surplus Trader Secrets coaching program. Guys, if this training resonated with you and you're thinking, actually, I'd like to plug this type of business into the side of my existing business, or you're thinking, actually, I'd like to get started in the excess infantry business with the help of Matt, and you want to talk about this in further detail, then book a call with me. I've got a few spots where I'm giving out free 30-minute strategy calls to, you know, have a chat directly with me on the phone, see if you're a good fit for us, we're a good fit for you, see what your goals are, and, you know, how we can help you move forward in the excess infantry business. So all you have to do is just click on the link and it will take you to a page where you fill out a short application and then book a call with a scheduler. Don't matter where you are in the world, all these methods that I talk about work, okay? Don't matter which country you are in. Hopefully I will talk to you very, very soon. See you soon.